Hi, everyone. Thanks so much. I'm sorry that Monday got a little bit messed up, but I thought that this might be a nice example of what you can do when perhaps you are sick or your children, future children, might be sick and you want to flip the classroom. So I'm using Screencast-O-Matic, which was one of the tools that we had a workshop for. And now I'm going to switch over and talk over the slides so you don't have to see my face the whole time. Thanks again. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or Emily, or come to the Wednesday section if you see this and you're like, no, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. So just a second. So by the end of the session, you will choose a challenge with your teammates. Each of you brought in 2 to 3 things that you've identified that you might want to work on. Next, you'll identify questions to help you understand the challenge that you've identified. And then we'll create action items for each team member to complete before next class. And just a reminder that the technology proficiencies are due by midnight. If you have any questions, please email us and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So the design thinking model that we are following in this class is the deep design thinking flow, which goes through discovery, empathizing with the users, experimenting on solutions, and then producing a solution. So right now we're really starting out in the discover phase, and we're finding your team and then going to discover some questions. So for the next little bit, we're going to talk about what is a design challenge. And so this one has dare to change the world for others. So for example, a design challenge that a previous student took on in the last semester of class was to increase collaboration across 2 sections of classes. So that would be an example, and we'll be carrying this example through to see how you might want to fill out or complete your design project. So in this little section, I would hope that you guys can share out each of the ideas that you brought. So spend some time for each person on your team to talk about the challenges or the problems or identify things that they wanted to be able to tackle in this class. And then from those, if you could try to see if there are any themes or commonalities or something that all of you would like to work on. And then if you could do that and either post a picture or a video on Seesaw for what you would like to do and what you guys have decided on. And so try to spend around 5 minutes on here. If you are following along with the Google Slides, you can start the 5-minute timer here. The other thing that if you want to, you can feel free to write this down in your books. There are books in the design lab that you hopefully can get, and they're actually physical copies of this workbook. You can feel free to use the whiteboards in the room. You can feel free to use posters and post-it notes. However you feel to be creative to get your ideas out, you can feel free to do for this entire challenge. The other bit that we've done is we've actually uploaded the Design Challenge workbook into Google Slides, and it should be view only for you. I'm logged in here, but it should be view only. So what you can do is when you sign in, you can make a copy. And if you make a copy for yourself, then you can make one for your team. And then you can fill out the slides and you can upload those to Seesaw, or you could take screenshots and then annotate into Seesaw, and everything will be here for you. So you can see here we've got everything in a Google slide that is in the playbook for the entire playbook. So I'm going to go back to our slides, and so here you guys should be, hopefully, clicking on the timer, sharing out your ideas, and then at the end of 5 minutes, try to have a design challenge that you've somewhat agreed upon. You can always feel free to change your design challenge later, but try to think of something like increasing collaboration across two sections of classes, something like this that you guys can agree upon to work on for now. So go ahead and start the timer and get moving. Okay, so hopefully you have paused it. If you haven't paused the video yet, pause it now and work on your 5 minutes. Then you can come back. The next bit is the Spidia web. And in the slides you'll see before this was a rock paper challenge. We'll be doing that in class to get your blood flowing and everything pumping, because the next bit is really just free form thinking and getting the body moving to get some ideas flowing. So if you want to take a break, do some jumping jacks, sit with your team, stand up, do some burpees, if that's what they're called, and then sit back down. The next bit is just taking a few minutes to generate as many words that you can to connect to the challenge that you have just identified. So what comes to mind? Is there any experience that you've had? Anything that you're wondering about? Anything that just pops into your head? This is really kind of a free-form word association. So for example, we have the 5-minute timer. We're going to spend 5 minutes here. And one of the examples that we had for increasing collaboration across two sections of classes, some ideas that just popped into my mind were, is it asynchronous? Is it synchronous collaboration? How are we going to make time for this? Are they going to be embedded into lessons or units? How are students going to access this? Is it going to require them to have Wi-Fi access outside of class? What's the context of the class? How can we, moving up towards like the lockers, how do lockers, Twitter, lunch? I was thinking, well, how do students actually collaborate or talk about sections or teachers outside of class? Because that happens, right? You talk about across sections, what they did. Maybe you guys are talking across sections, what's happening here. What did you do on Monday? Well, I don't know. What did you do on Wednesday? If there might be social media that happens, helps with that. So what exactly do we want them to do with collaboration, talking, sharing, reflecting, and ideally potentially even some knowledge building. So how are they learning from each other? So again, we are going to spend 5 minutes here. Try to write down, jot down, put on the whiteboard, put on Post-its, however you want to do it, however many words you can to associate with the design challenge. Put your design challenge here, just like in our example, and put some words down, and go ahead, start the timer, and go. And pause it here. All right, so for the next bit, after you've generated as many words, we're going to be starting with questions. And so often, and especially I am this way too, what happens is you find a challenge and then you immediately start going into solutions. Like, oh, I know exactly what we can do. We can use X, Y, and Z. We can use Twitter. We can use Facebook. We can have them sit in groups and collaborate across sections. But really with design and design thinking, one of the things we want to kind of reframe is not to be compelled to answer the questions right away. So instead of immediately going to solutions, try to start thinking of questions that this challenge might bring up. So this way you can start to think about what types of experiences, what other things might be at play here, what kinds of needs are there for the users. So our example for collaboration, some things that the words immediately made us think of is, so what do students already do to collaborate or talk across classes? What tools exist that can help students collaborate across classes? And what examples exist for how to encourage knowledge building across classes? So how are other teachers maybe doing this? And what barriers might there be to help students talk across classes when you're thinking about access? So the word generation is really trying to get you to think along, what are some of the questions that would be important to answer when trying to address this challenge? So the next part, so after you start thinking, here is where if you can start thinking and framing of a few questions, jot that down on your whiteboard, on a piece of paper, wherever it is, and take a picture of it. Then we're just going to transition into the next bit, which is thinking about what you already know and what you need to know. So putting down, oh, I know a few tools, but I would like to know more tools. And trying to just have a discussion with your team about how we might close the gap. And this is really getting you to the next section, which is the adventure grid, where you have just thinking about some different areas that you can use to help you discover the underlying needs of the challenge. So for media, what could we research? So, there might be some collaboration tools that might be relevant to increasing collaboration. And there are even some that are listed on our site wiki. There might be social media ways that we could get people to connect across, because that's what people use, to connect across geographies, not even in the same school, not even in the same state or same country. What are some experiences that we could look at? We could look at some classrooms. What are some examples? You might even go somewhere different, like UVA Scholars Lab, to try to get some ideas, or some of the libraries. Our librarians are a fantastic resource. Who are some people we could talk to? We could talk to maybe some students, maybe talk to some of your friends. So what are some ways that UVA students, teacher ed students, ideally maybe even some like elementary, middle, or high school students, what do they already do to collaborate or talk across classes? You don't necessarily need to talk to them, but you could try to observe when you're out in the classrooms. And teachers, what tools do teachers already use? I mean, are they already doing this? You can maybe think about, asking or observing the way teachers might already do this. And if there's anything else, you can feel free to capture that here. And so with this frame, what you are going to do is starting to think about who is going to do what for next week. So you're sort of putting together a plan for, say, Emily is going to report back, and you're going to go on your selected adventure and take notes, and then you're going to report back to the team next week. So, for example, I could say, you know what? I really need to beef up. I'm really interested in collaboration tools, so I am going to go and do this. Emily's saying, oh, she would really like to talk to some UVA students to see how they might talk across sections, so she's going to go do that. And Jamie is going to go look at the classrooms in the UVA Scholar Lab to see how that's going to happen. So for next class, once you have done all of these activities, please either take screenshots or take a video reflection of what you've done, and maybe a link to your Google Slides if you decided to use Google Slides, and update Seesaw with your group activities. And this is going to count for portfolio update number 1. So this is 3 points. So just putting down these filled out slides, or posting pictures of your brainstorms on a whiteboard. All of that, if you do it, is 3 points for portfolio update 1. And then you need to go on your selected adventure and take notes. So for my selected adventure, I said that I was going to go back and research some collaboration tools in social media. And so I'm going to just take some notes and then report back for to my team for next week. There is a very short, once again, very, very short empathize portion in the playbook on page 13 for you to read. And then also, if you could watch the Brene Brown empathy video, if you haven't already seen it, it's only 3 minutes long. It's really, really great, and it's a really nice frame for how to think about empathy. And just another reminder, technology proficiencies are due by midnight for Monday and Wednesday. So again, if you have any questions, please let us know. And next week we're going to be heading in, doing the last bit of discovery and heading into empathy. And so thank you so much, and we will see you next week.